What's good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a big day as we have the PPI data report coming out, not to mention new developments on the charts. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. This offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks. Check it out before they run out. Anyways, for Tesla, we're doing a good job at holding up thus far. And I just want to say today was an absolutely crazy day. We had CPI come out, the market pushed just a little bit. And then as soon as the market opened, we dumped. We dumped really, really hard for the first couple of hours. And then at the end of the day, for the last 4 or 5 hours, the market started to push, and during the final hours, it just really started to pump, and we started breaking our highs, and the market started to turn back to bullish. So it was very, very crazy how this panned out. So the question is, what's going to happen from here? What is my opinion? I first want to talk about some data, then I'll talk about what's happening with the charts. So for today, we had CPI data come out. We had core at 0.3%, which was aligned with expectations. Same thing with core CPI year over year. It was at 3.2%, aligned with expectations as well. And then for all items month over month, we were at 0.2% for CPI. That is aligned with expectations. And last but not least, we had CPI for all items year over year. So relative to last year for the month of August, it was at 2.5% below expectations. So everything was as expected. And then all items CPI year over year was below expectations. So the market's reaction. So what I said yesterday was I thought the market would see a more bullish reaction. That was ultimately correct. The market did end up pumping Teslas in the green. So was SPY in the QQQ. But I didn't necessarily call exactly how this would pan out because no one, I mean, I couldn't have predicted that this market would just dump 10 points, then just get bought back up 15 points. That's pretty crazy. But ultimately, the bulls did have the edge after this came out, and the data was decent. So now what's happening to the markets? And here's the answer. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, September 12th, 2024. Please note that 1 hour before the market ends up opening, we have the PPI data report coming out. We have PPI month over month expected to be at 0.1%. The same thing as what we saw before. For core PPI month over month, we're expecting 0.1% around there, a little bit of an increase compared to what we saw before. And then we have initial jobless claims. We're expecting this to be around 230,000, very similar to before. For core PPI, we're expecting this year over year to be at 2.4%, basically, which is very similar to what we saw from before. And then finally, for PPI year over year tomorrow, we're expecting this to be around that 1.9% area. That's between the consensus and the forecast. And if anything, that is a little bit of a decrease. So very similar expectations as CPI, where we expect everything to be very similar except for the year over year data for all items. So, what is PPI, by the way? Why am I talking about this as if it's so important? It is very important because it's another thing that affects the Fed's policies, at least to some extent. And it's going to give us more insights on how inflation is looking from the wholesale side. It's a leading indicator for CPI, so we'll see how it looks like. Considering that CPI was aligned with expectations, there's a good chance that PPI is going to be fine. Not as sure about PPI for all items, especially also at like core, because core wasn't as great for CPI. It was just just the same as what we saw from before. So we're expecting a slight increase in core actually for month over month for PPI. We'll see how that ends up looking like. Besides that, everything else should be aligned with expectations, but I'm not as sure about PPI year over year. This is expected to be pretty low at 1.9%. We'll see if we end up getting something like that. Now, besides that, we have a couple of bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. and everything else is quite minor. But the main time to watch for volatility is before the market opens and also during open when all this data ends up coming out. Now, for CPI, and this is a good piece of news for PPI, the trend has been quite good, at least for the Fed. I'm not saying this data is 100% credible. I trust every way that it's being reported because I know that the way to which the data is collected and presented could be very biased. I just want to say that we have to present the data based off what's being told, and we have to just present it honestly because this is what the market reacts to, and I have to just kind of keep things this way. So right now we're seeing a big decrease in all items of CPI, and then core CPI is kind of flat right now. That's a little bit more sticky, but so far you could argue that progress is being made. The Fed is liking this, so is the market. That's why the market thinks there's an 85% chance we get a 25 basis point cut and a 15% chance we get a 50 basis point cut. This may shift tomorrow. We could start to see this one go down and then this bar start to go up a little bit as the market starts to push. That's a strong possibility. But I just want to say that right now the market thinks there's a 100% chance we get a cut. There's not really any other piece of data that's too significant that's going to come out that will change that view at this point. I think a cut is almost inevitable at this point, right before the election. I don't know what the full extent is going to be, if it's going to be 25 or 50 basis points. We'll just have to wait and see. But I have a feeling that the market may push a little higher and start to price in a 25 basis point cut, a little bit less, and maybe more towards a 50 basis point cut, maybe try to balance this a little bit more. That could fuel more upside with the Fed being more dovish. For now, the market is still at fear, but we're getting very close to neutral. We're seeing a shift right over here in sentiment. We'll see if that holds. Momentum is neutral as well. We're looking at the 125 daily moving average. As long as we hold above this, I think this favors upside, at least moving forward. For other factors out there, we're looking at the put and call option ratio. Right now, I just want to say that this is very high. Oftentimes, when this gets too high, we start to see a squeeze in the markets because people start closing their shorts and then they hedge by buying long positions, and that pumps the market higher. So that is what could be happening right now. We could be at the start of a rally. We could see the market makers squeeze shorts, and that's what happened today during the fake dump we got. So there's a good chance that this could fuel more upside. The VIX is looking more bearish, but we're not officially losing key support. We're still testing the 50 daily moving average in the 17s. So we'll see if that holds or not. For two more pieces of news, Tesla's planning to offer battery armor and rock slider retrofits for the Cybertruck. Pretty cool stuff, in my opinion. This will give more variance for people who are interested in this, and it's going to give it a lot more capabilities when it comes to off-roading. So that's very, very cool, in my opinion, for people who are interested in this. So it's a good piece of news for the Cybertruck. I didn't see too much significant news that I haven't gone over already, but I do want to mention that Tesla's confirming the robotaxi event is going to be in Los Angeles. That's in California. Great news for them. There's a lot of hype about this. Elon Musk said this may be one of the biggest events for them since the launch of their new models. This is going to be big, so I can't wait to see what happens in less than a month from now. With that being said, that is enough about the news, enough about all this data. Let's focus now on the charts and break down what they are suggesting. So we're going to start off with Tesla stock. I just want to say that right now Tesla's doing a good job at holding up. We have a nice looking inverse head and shoulders like structure on the 4-hour time frame. And with this forming, if we manage to break past and hold above 228, we're looking for basically 230. Eventually, these highs up here in this 235 area. Now, 235 is kind of tough. We did reject here off 4 times, so we have to be a little bit careful. Now, I also know now, Tesla is very low compared to its all-time high. The all-time high was a long time ago, and we're not there. So I'm not saying that the much larger trend suggests that Tesla is going to explode to all-time highs. I'm not focused on the larger trend, guys. My channel is more about the shorter term for those who are interested in like trading, looking at opportunities for the next few weeks, next few days. And for the next few days, Tesla is looking more bullish, looking at this chart on the 4-hour time frame. Another confluence of this would be looking at the daily. Looking at the fact that SPY and the QQQ look bullish, I will talk more about that in a couple of minutes, and then tech is starting to push up again. So notice that for Tesla, there's a big trend shift right here. The first thing actually is this. Going back to the 4-hour, there's one more thing I want to show you. We're holding this yellow trend line. So look at this big yellow trend line. We touched this, we bounced, touched this, bounced, bounced, bounced. We're still looking more bullish for Tesla because of that. And then when you look at the daily charts, like this, you'll see that last week on Friday we sold off to 210, only to make a higher high compared to that low. We made a higher high back on Monday, and another high above that high on Tuesday. Then we broke Tuesday's high on Wednesday, which is today, which shows that Tesla's trending upwards. Today we saw a big dump followed by a big bounce, which shows that the bulls had a bigger edge, and we look bullish on the 4-hour time frame. So what do I think is going to happen? Let's go over the levels and I'll talk about the charts in my personal opinion. So hypothetically, if we get some bad news tomorrow, you never know what's going to happen. You want to see 225 as our key support. If that fails us, we're looking for 222. If that fails us, we're going back down towards 220 and then 217. Those are going to be your main supports. 225 is the main one. If that fails us, we could be tipping lower. If we're bullish, we break past 228, we're looking for basically 230 as resistance, followed by this 235 area as the next resistance. In my opinion, okay, I think that we look bullish on Tesla's 4-hour time frame. I think that if we do dip a little bit after PPI comes out tomorrow, I still think Tesla could try to push higher. I think that we're going to be fighting for 228, which I presume will most likely break for that 230 target. I think this imbalance will take us higher for 230. I think the daily looks more bullish, and Tesla's going to be looking for the 230s very soon, at least for the short term. Now, the overall market's also pushing, which could help Tesla, especially considering the fact that we have FOMC coming up, and the market's very optimistic approaching it. So as far as SPY goes, the 4 hour is looking more bullish. We got this big dump, and I said to everyone, if we lost 542, we're looking for that gap fill. We came down to fill the gap, but then I told you to watch and see if we get bought back up around here or not once the gap is filled. And I went over all the levels. We were looking bearish at the time I was recording my second video of the day. But then once my third video came out, we started to push higher. And I was talking about how there's going to be a big rally coming. And that ended up being correct as the market began to rally more. So with that being said, we look bullish looking at the 4 hour time frame. We're looking at a very, very nice amount of volume that came in and a lot of buyers that stepped in. The daily looks quite bullish as well, as we have this big wick that formed and the fact that we held the weekly low. So we had this weekly low at this 537 area. We came up, we held a higher low, and now we're pushing higher. So that's a bullish signal. This is a sign of a trend reversal for a temporary rally, possibly approaching the very, very big report by the Fed for their notorious FOMC meeting. So if we turn bearish on SPY, hypothetically look at 553 as support. If that fills us, we're going back down to about the the 550 areas coming next if we lose 553. And then if we're bullish, you want to break past 555 to 556. If we break that, we're looking for 558 and then 560 to fill this imbalance up here. In my opinion, for tomorrow, I think that it's possible that SPY dips a little bit. We could retest the 553 area, very close to the breakout zone, and then we could be looking for a big push higher for that 556 area, which if we break, we're looking for 558 and potentially 560. So I think we look a little bit more bullish on SPY looking at this setup, and we look like we favor upside. For ES, if we hypothetically lose 55.20, we turn back down, and we're going to be looking for a move back down. If we manage to hold above and break past 55.60, look for 55.80. If that breaks, we're looking for the 5600s. In my opinion, the 4 hour time frame is looking more bullish because we had this low down here at this 5400 area. We came up, made a higher low, and now we're trying to push higher. So I favor upside from that end. I think that what's going to most likely happen is we have this resistance. We could shuffle a little bit, maybe even dip a bit, then continue higher. I think we could be on our way for 55.80, if not 5600 basically. But that depends if we could hold above 55.60. So I think we favor upside, but watch for confirmation. For Nvda, we look like we have an inverse head and shoulders in this imbalance to fill towards that 120 area. However, there's a big however. When you look at the daily time frame, it depends if we could hold above these key levels. As long as we hold above 115, we favor a push for that 120 target to fill our gap, almost 120, maybe a little bit below that. If we lose 115, we're looking for 112 all over again. From a technical standpoint, we favor upside for that gap fill, so I think 120 is most likely coming. We could dip to retest 115, but as long as we don't lose that, as long as we don't close below that, we favor the big push for that 120 target. The daily looks very strong on Nvda, and we favor upside, so far this is looking bullish. For Bitcoin, we have the support to watch for all the way down here at this 56,750 area. So if we lose the 56,750 support, we could be dipping back down to the lows. If we break past 57,850, we could be looking for a push for this 59,000 targets. So the daily looks more bullish. I think that we could dip a bit and start pushing higher, and we could be looking for 59,000. So we look more bullish in my personal opinion. For other factors out there, I just want to mention that we also happen to have a lot of confluences. So what's good for Tesla is the fact that if the whole market is pushing, this could help Tesla. Notice that Tesla's been trending upwards for the last 3 days. SPY's been doing the same thing. QQQ has been doing something very similar. The market is moving on an algorithm, and this is helping Tesla pump higher. So that's why Tesla's looking more bullish as well. The market's moving in a unison. For NQ, we have 19,250 as our resistance if that breaks. As long as we hold above that, we're looking for 19,400. If we reject and we end up going down to 19,166, we could be dipping back down to 19,000, if not 18,800 as our support. So watch those levels very carefully. In my opinion, the 4 hour looks more bullish, so is the daily. As long as NQ tries to break and hold above 19,250, we're favoring a push for 19,500 as we look more bullish. The QQQ looks more bullish. We're looking at this resistance around 468. Watch support at 466 if that fails us. 465, excuse me, that's more important. If 465 fails us, we're going to be dipping back down to 463, then eventually 460. As long as we hold above 468, we favor a move for about 472, then eventually this gap fill for 475. I think we favor upside for at least 472. We could dip a little bit first and try to push higher later on during the day, just like how we did today. But nonetheless, the chart looks more bullish. Apple looks a little bit more bullish, but we haven't broken some key resistance. Look at 222.93 is resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 223.8. If we lose 219, we turn back down. I figure this might be pushing for 223.8 or higher. If we get confirmation through a break of our 20 EMA on the daily at 223, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. But overall, we look a little bit more bullish. With that being said, guys, I'm going to be doing a speed run for the rest of these. I have a lot of tickers to go over. For Palantir, for those who are interested, we look bullish on the daily, but I'm going to pull up the 4-hour time frame to show you something. We have tough resistance at 35. We're also in a range right now. If 35 breaks, we're looking for 36. And if 35 rejects, we're looking for 33.5 again. So we look like we want to push higher on the 4-hour and the daily, but we need confirmation of a break past 35 for that to happen. So watch and see if that ends up being the case tomorrow. There is potential in this nonetheless. For super micro, we look bullish on the 4-hour as we have an inverse head and shoulders, and we have this 50 EMA as our target. I presume what's going to happen is, just hypothetically, if we were to lose support over here at this 435 area, there's going to be a dump back down to 421. If we break past resistance up here at this 450 area, as long as we hold where we're at, we're looking for 456 and 464. So I think the 4-hour on super micro is looking more bullish. I think we could dip a bit, then start pushing higher. I think that 456 is looking more favorable, so I think that's more likely. So I think there's a good chance we push higher, so we'll see how things end up going. For Rivian, we have basically 13.89 as our resistance. If this breaks, we're going to be looking for a push for 14.2 all over again. Now, what happened to Rivian was we got a dump, which is what I was talking about in my earlier video, but the dump was yesterday. We rebounded, then we dumped again into the 12s, only to bounce this time. And then we ended up breaking this key resistance. I think I deleted the resistance, but there was a trend line I had drawn out like this. We've broken past this. This is the first time we broke it. This is a sign of strength. We might dip a bit to the breakout zone towards like 13.7 or so, and then we may continue to push higher into the 14s if this breakout continues. It looks a little bit more bullish. For SoFi, we look a bit more bullish as well. If we lose 7.2, we could be dipping down to 7. If we break past 7.3, we're looking for 7.5 plus. I think we could test 7.2 around that area and then try to bounce higher for 7.5. I find that to be the most likely case, but we'll see with how PPI ends up going. For the IWM, if we end up losing 208, we're looking all the way down to about 206 and then 204. If we manage to break past 210, we're looking for 212 and 215. I'm favoring that we're going to be holding above 210 and push for 212, if not a higher level. For AMD, we look a little bit more bullish. I think there's a good chance we attempt to push higher. Look at this resistance area. I think that we have support at 148, which we could retest. As long as we bounce off this, we could be looking for 152, which is where we have a chop zone. So it might be kind of choppy up there. We'll see if that breaks or not. If we do break there, we're going up to 155. And if we lose 148, we could be dipping back down to about 146. So I favored might dip a bit, then try to bounce. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For ARM, we look more bullish. We're trying to push out higher. Look at that support currently around this 137.5 area. Look at resistance up here around this 145 area. We look more bullish if we break past 140, so we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. For Coinbase, we look a little bit more bullish, but we have to break past 158 for confirmation. If that breaks, we're looking for basically the 160s, 161 to 165. If we reject and we don't break that, we could be dipping back down to 155 and then 152. This is favoring a test of 158s tomorrow. If that breaks, we turn bullish. We'll see how PPI affects us, but this looks a little bit more promising. For Amazon, look at 182.5 as support. We could retest the 182.5 area, then try to bounce. And if we break the high, we're looking for basically 187. So it looks more bullish to me as we have a breakout structure that's forming on Amazon. This could also resemble like a cup and handle, so it looks like it might try to go up to the target. Looks bullish. If we could try to hold above 184, we could dip first and try to break it later on. For Meta, we're at a range. If 512 breaks, we're looking for 515. If we reject, we're going down to 507. We're just range bound. We'll see if 512 breaks, but there's potential in this. For Microsoft, we have 425 as resistance. If this breaks, we're looking for 427. If this rejects, we're going down to 419. This looks more bullish nonetheless. So 425 is a strong possibility. For Google, as long as we're above our support, we're looking for 153 as a target. If that breaks, we're looking for 155. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For others out there, DJT made a big drop after the debate yesterday. It could be retesting the 15s before it tries to bounce. So it still looks more bearish. The VIX is also looking a little bit more bearish. We're barely holding our 200 EMA. If 17.6 breaks, we're looking for a bigger dump to fill this gap into the 15s. That could be bullish for the markets, but that depends on what happens with the PPI data. The 10 year is going to make a big move depending on what we get from PPI and also FOMC next week. And the dollar is kind of flat, so we have to give this a little bit more time to develop. So with that being said, guys, I think I'm almost out of time for the video. So I thank you all for listening. Tesla and the market have more upside potential. There could be some consolidation in the morning, then maybe even more upside to end the day. I think the charts still look bullish from a technical standpoint, but we'll see depending on PPI and how these things end up going. With that being said, I thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow to give you guys an update on PPI. Until then, I thank you for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before the market opens. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world, and peace out.